Hi, I'm Sherry and welcome back to my channel, Sherry Jones Designs. In today's video, we are going to be upcycling this shirt and I'm going to be making something really comfortable for myself. So stay tuned and I'll show you how it's done. All right, so the first thing you want to do is try your shirt on and make sure that it is not too big but not too small. Like you want a roomy shirt. This is a men's large. And I usually wear between a medium and a large women's. So I'm thinking it might be the same for you. So just the same size, but in men's that you normally wear. So the first thing I'm going to do is where I want it to fall before I add the ruffle in. Now you have to decide for yourself where you want that to fall. For me, I think I'm going to almost do a t-shirt length cut off to my waist. You can use a chalk to mark it, or you can use a safety pin and just clip the safety pin in there so you can take it off and on without jabbing yourself. Another good thing you can do for checking the sizing of your garment is get out a piece that fits you really well, that's sized the way you need it. I'm going to be doing that as well. And I'm going to be comparing it to this one, making sure that I have my armholes correct, that I have the length correct that I want. And that's how I'm going to know where to adjust this one at. And then I will be trying it on periodically to make sure everything is going according to plans. Another thing is if you have a dress form that is your exact size, that's nice because you can slip your piece on it, do your pinning and everything, and I'll have to keep taking a garment off and on. But that's a luxury most of us do not have. So let's continue. I'm going to mark my waist. The most important thing I wanted was where I want my ruffle, my lower portion to start, and then also where I want my sleeve to start. So let's mark that and then let's continue. I'm actually going to use chalk. I want something I can see, and I'm going to use chalk because I'm not a fan of bleeding, which I almost always do at least once in my projects. I want there, and then I want my sleeve to start somewhere probably there. Okay, I'm good. Okay, so here's my mark here, and here's my mark here. Now what you want to do, I want to show you a tip here that I've learned. When cutting off a men's shirt, if you lay it and cut it, the back is usually always going to not be quite right. And I've learned that there's like a little bit of extra in the back. I don't know how to explain it other than that. So what I've learned to do is cut my front separate, open it, and then cut the back. And I get a better cut out of it. You know, as long as you're kind of close. And then you're going to want to cut it back this way. And by doing that, it's much easier to get the back side of the cut. You're going to unbutton it, flip your shirt over, and now you can actually see between your cuts. See how it's different than your front side. A lot of times when I cut it all at once, I will get, I think because there's an arch to the back, I will get an arch in it. And now I'm going to just start here. You could probably mark it. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but sometimes it'll affect your bottom hem, you know, of a garment if you're trying to get something more exacting. And so now you can see that it's not the same from side to side. There is a difference here. So we're just going to cut straight across. And if you're worried about it, you can measure it. But you know, we saw that we were straight on the front, and look at the difference. So several things you could do here. One, you could ignore it and just go with the slant. You could go like this and use your little knife and cut it off. But some fabrics are just that way, you know. Like you could do that. Give yourself a line if you need a line from your straight sides. Like that. You could just give yourself a line and cut it off that way. and then just cut it off, following your line. Or you could just aim and go for it. But what I'm going to be using as my second piece is I'm going to be using this because I want something really floaty, and it is see-through. Like, I want it to just feel so lightweight and sort of dropping, you know, on my hand. I'm going to screw that light bulb back in. I think maybe we can get a little bit more light. Hold on. I think that might give me just a little bit more. All these for overhead shots. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be using this for the rest of my fabrics that drape. Now, if you don't want your pocket on there, you can take it off, but before you do that, make sure your fabric hasn't drastically faded. Many times on older shirts, the inside of the pocket's going to look like new and your shirt's going to look aged. So if you remove your pocket, you're just going to have a brand new piece of fabric in the shape of a pocket. So check that out. I oftentimes, which I'll probably do on this one, I just remove the flap. You don't really notice this part that much, and you can actually just sew that shut if you don't want to see that on the front of your garment or have it super noticeable. And then here's my mark on this one. I'm just going to flatten my sleeve like that, and I'm just aiming for something that's going to be straight up. That's what I'm aiming for, and I can use a ruler like that, make a mark. Like, I could just make a mark and use my scissors, something that looks cool. And then we're going to use this side, just kind of a straight up mark. And we're going to be using this side to make the mark on the other, to cut the other one. We're going to set this aside. Here, I'm going to mark it there. And make sure I got a mark down there. And just cut your sleeve off. That is, if it would go all the way through. I still haven't got new blades in my cutter. I need to do that. So now I've got that one cut off. And here's what I have right now. And remember, it's going to be cool for summer. Now, this is when you decide what kind of neckline you want. All right, now for your collar. If you like the collar the way it is, of course, you can leave it. I don't like, in summer, I don't like this heat up around my neck. If you want to just give it a feminine look, but not really change much, just cut it right here at the top where they join. And I'll show you what that would look like. It will fray just a little bit when you wash it, but if you just trim it, it'll be fine. And it's actually a really cute look, but it won't fray much because you've got a seam right there. Just watch by cutting that one thing. Look what a difference it would make on this top. How cute is that? I mean, that is a really cute look right there. All right, I don't actually want the collar on. I'm probably going to I'm going to cut my collar off. I do not want the collar on, but that is an easy way to get a nicer look without having to mess with the collar. And I like a lot of room around my neck and lots of breeze in the summer. And we're going to remove the collar completely. And then I'm going to cut about, I don't want to go too far because I am going to be folding it under. I'm going to cut about at least 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch has been my experience to cut and remove. I can do it with a serger, but I'm just going to do it by hand. You're just going to cut that off if you want the same look I'm going for. So I'm going to show you a technique here that I haven't shown you yet on a collar, and that's how to make a V-neck. Some people do not like, first of all, I'll say this, some people do not like that you can tell it's a men's shirt because of the way it buttons. I feel it's too masculine. So what you want to do in that case is you're going to, if you sew it shut, along this side. You cannot, if you use a thread that looks like the other side here or similar, you cannot tell which way it opened. So that gets rid of that whole masculine aspect. And then the second thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and give it a V-neck. And you could, like, I could serge this first, but I don't think you might not have a serger. So I'm just going to use a cute little zigzag. This is kind of a country look anyways. I think zigzag will fit perfect here. I'm going to just take, get me a pin here, and I'm going to fold this under. Okay, fold it down, and I will be turning all this under at least 1/4 of an inch, but notice how I've got a lot more here because I'm coming down to my V. Now, you want the V to end perfectly in the middle here, right? So go ahead and I've got the V shape I want on this one. Now I'm going to fold this one, and I'm going to fold it, and you've got to make sure you're buttoned up to do this. And see how my V would end up over there. I'm going to fold it down until the V ends up where I want it, right there, and I'm going to pin it. So when I sew it, my V ends up here, and I don't mind that angle piece right there. I think that's fine. I mean, that is up to you. You don't have to make a V-neck. If you make this, you can make the neck rounded. You could just hem it, leave it rounded. You could leave the buttons and be able to unbutton it. It might be easier to get into. For me, I don't like worrying about gapping or coming unbuttoned. I'm kind of active person, so I will be sewing mine shut and then sewing in my V-neck all the way around. And you can go ahead and pin this if you want. You're going to want to turn it under about that much, or use these little clips, and go ahead if you want. I will be at the machine just turning it under about like that as I go, and I'm going to use a zigzag so it kind of finishes this. Now, like I said, you can serge it ahead of time. You can use a finish stitch. A lot of machines have a finishing stitch. Then just turning it under once. I like to turn once because it's not as heavy on the neck. You don't have, this already has this lining. Like, I already have this to deal with. You know, it's not just a singular on the back. That would give me so much if I try to go that much. I've got a really thick, and I don't like the way that feels. So I'm going to be turning this once, and I'm going to hem all the way around here. This is what it looks like, and then you just come in here and you'll just trim these off. And if you have a lot here, you can just trim it back and it'll be less fraying for you. Kind of like as if you had finished and zigzagged your edge. So that will help you. All right, there we go. That looks quite nice. I am pleased with that. What I want to do is I'm going to take this now and I'm going to lay it out like this, and we're going to cut 2 ruffles out of here that are going to go, and we'll be gathering on the bottom of this. I'm going to measure how much I have here and just divide it, kind of, unless it's tricky. So I've got about 9. So I'm going to do 4.5. It's going to be 1. Okay, so that's because some shirts are big and tall men's. So some of them are going to be longer here. So I don't know what kind of shirt you're working with. But what I'm going to do is just divide my difference, the difference here, and make that the little bottom ruffle. At least 9. So we're going to do 4.5, and I'm going to come up here and go 4.5 and give myself a starting point. And I'll just follow the line in the plaid. If you've got a plain color shirt, you'll have to come along and mark 4.5. you know, all the way. It puts me right on this. Another way you can cut it, I'll show you another way you can do it. Just take the one you've cut, fold it over, and then follow your line. Like that. Okay, now for this next step, what you will want to do is make sure that you've sewn them together to create a loop. Make sure your loop's not twisted, it would lay flat. So it looks and will lay like this, but it's one continuous loop. So I've sewn both pieces together because we're going to be attaching this as a ruffle. Now to attach it to our main piece, you're going to want to divide this into fourths to give yourself a place to pin to. So I'm going to consider, you know, this center, and you're going to mark it with a pin. So when you pull it out, all the way out, you should have like halfway and then half of your half. So basically, I'm going to put, just to let myself know, I'm going to consider this a center point. You could also mark this with a chalk if you've got a chalk that you can see really well. I'm struggling because my chalk is like these three colors, so it's a little bit hard to see. So I'm going to be using pins, and as long as it's approximate within half an inch or so. And now here's the half of my half is here. So I'm going to put a mark here. I'm just going to mark where it is. And then here's the half of my other half. If that makes any sense. I don't really want the button right in front of the ruffle. I'm going to be attaching mine like this, where the button would be out at the sides. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to be laying it like this to attach it, pinning the center here, and then pinning my center out here, and then just finger gathering and sewing down this. First I'll do a straight stitch. We'll do a straight stitch, and then we'll come back over everything with a zigzag. Now you could come back over straight stitch it, make sure you like it, then come back over it with your serger and serge both together, so when it lays down you have a finished edge. But I'm going to do it just on the machine because I'm thinking that's what you guys will have. It's just a machine. So what we're going to do, we're going to start by those center points that we made. Here's one. I'm going to pin that to here. And then I'm going to come down here to find my center point, which is here. And I'm going to pin that to here. And if I want that button to fall right at the center here, I can even do that. I can place that button so I would see it directly on the side here. But it doesn't matter to me if it is directly, but if that's something you like, you would want to do that. Okay, and then if you want to, you could find the half of your half. So now between here and here, approximately halfway is here. So I can tell that that's going to fall somewhere here. That's going to even divide it up a little bit more and allow me to get this even more, a little more exacting with my. Now I know that between here and here, where I've pinned it, I have to gather all of this. So when I finger gather that in there, like that, like I know I'm not going to have like a whole bunch here and only a tiny bit over here. It just makes it more even. Now here we've pinned everything, and I'm just going to start at some point, and I'm going to use a straight stitch. I'm going to set mine on about a 3. And I'm going to come in at least a quarter, if not 3/8 of an inch. Now I do have to be careful. There are some buttons here. Like I would have sewn right over that. I want to remove that button because I'm going to hit it with my machine. And I usually just sew where this outside of this foot just kind of runs along the fabric. It gives me a guide and I don't have to fuss. And then what you're going to do is you're going to finger gather, or just you don't have to use your fingers. You can just lay it in there and do some pleats. We're just going to pleat it by hand. And I'm just going to sew with a straight stitch. I'm just going to gather these little folds that I'm making. I'm just going to make sure that they all fit in this space sort of evenly. Like I don't have one great big one. I kind of want them all about the same size, and finger gathering works really well, but it's not working for me this time. I don't know if it's because it's left-handed or because the fabric's light and it wants to shift all of it. So normally I'm gathering out here on a smooth surface, and it's not that way this time. Okay, so I've sewn mine all the way around like this. Now what you're going to want to do is finish your edge with like a zigzag. And this is a great time to make sure you didn't miss, like you don't have any holes that attaches your ruffle. And your ruffle's going to should look something like that, which is really cute. But after you zigzag that, you can just say that's good enough, or you can fold that to the front and do a top stitch right along your edge all the way around to keep it nice and crisp and pointing down. And then next we're going to finish the bottom edge. If you have a serger, you can just serge it and leave it, which would be easy. But if you don't have a serger and you want to finish it, you can zigzag it, fold it once, but you may see some fraying. Or you can very, very small, do a little handkerchief hem and fold it twice like that. Very tiny, just a very tiny fold over. And I think that's the one I'm going to do, and I'm going to use a straight stitch on it. I'll show you how that would look. Right here, basically, I'm just going to come to my machine. I'm going to fold it very tiny, very, very tiny, like an eighth. It's about as tiny as I can get it. It's called a handkerchief hem. And I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to make sure I'm on a straight stitch. And I'm just going to very carefully just fold that little handkerchief hem like that. Now, if your machine has trouble taking off, give it a little tug. And I'm going to hem it like that all the way around. I'm also going to finish this edge, and I think I am going to do the top stitch right on top there. Okay, so I've got my handkerchief hem done right here. And now what I'm doing here, I'm going to show you, is I zigzagged here next to my straight stitch, and now I'm just trimming it off like a serger would. So see, you don't have to have a serger. There's even stitches that gives you that finished edge, a zigzag, but most of us at least have a zigzag. And I'm just going to trim that off along the zigzag for a nice clean hem. Look how nice that looks. So this is what we have so far, and I think it's turning out really cute. I went ahead and did the little zigzag here to kind of tie into what I did up here. And now all we have left is to do our little sleeves up. And what I'm going to do is basically the same thing I did here, only I'm going to do it up here. Now the fabric I'm going to be using comes from the sleeve itself, and I'm going to cut strips out of the sleeve and then just gather them. It won't be as full, but I don't want it as full. Now your shirt may be different. This one has where you roll it up and then you have a tie strap here. I am going to be removing that, so I'll take this button off and I will remove this strap. And then what I'm going to do is I want to get 3 strips out of here. And those 3 strips I will join like I did the bottom one into a loop. And then I'm going to gather it to this and do the same thing I did on the border here. So there's one. I'm going to cut the second one. As long as they're all the same width, that's the thing. And then what you'll do is, because there's going to be an angle here, you're just going to remove this seam in the middle here, like that, so that you have flat ends. And this is going to be our ruffle. I'm going to sew these together and so that it's like that. And we're going to make a long piece here. And then I'm going to sew, once I figure out which way is the right direction, that one is. I'm going to sew those together. Like that. And then so I have this long loop, and then when I get the long loop, I'm going to come back and sew this together. Like that. So it's just like how we did the bottom, so you end up with this great big loop. Like that. And I'm going to do that for both of them. Okay, I want to show you what I have here. On this strip, we've sewn the whole thing together. So you should have something like this. And then I did a little handkerchief hem on one side. And then I'm going to, and to put it together, I just did a straight stitch with a zigzag. Okay, so it's just like the hem on the bottom. Only I'm going to divide it into two pieces this time. I'm deciding where I want my, because since you have three, it's not going to fold perfectly on a seam on each side. I think I will put one of my seams down. And what I'm going to do is put a pin on the, I'm going to divide it in half basically. And this is to mark where the middle point is. Come on. Here we go. And then I'm going to put right sides together. And here, I'm going to trim this to come kind of straight across the bottom here. Just to make my life easier. And I'm going to put this middle point here, pin it to here. And like that. And then we're going to pin this middle point up here to this middle point here to the top of our shoulder up here in the middle. As long as it's close, it could be off an inch or so and it'll still be fine. And I'm going to pin it here. And we're going to do just like we did on the bottom. We're going to hand gather this to this at the machine. And you can give yourself another halfway point. Like this, about halfway, like this. You can even divide it in halves again if you want. Like you could say halfway, that one would go there, and then just divide everything that's in between. Like that. And once we sew that on, it'll be like that. Well, it's turning out really cute. Let me show you. How cute is that? But the sleeves are a little deep for my taste. And some people may absolutely love them. They're very open and butterfly-like. But they're a little deep for me, so I'm going to be taking them in just a little. Okay, so like here's my sleeve. I'm just going to sew, I'm going to take out a couple of inches here and sew straight up. Because I still have all of that. But I want to close it in a little bit, so I'm just going to start at where the armpit is and just sew straight up. Now before you cut off your excess, turn it right side out and look at it and make sure it's what you want, because you can always just take the stitching out. Well, it turned out really cute and really comfortable, just like I had hoped. And I did have a little bit of problem with the sleeves, but after sewing them up, it's fine. It's very casual. Like, it's just very casual, and I love it. I love it. So don't forget to subscribe, you guys, to like and to share. And also don't forget there is a Discord if you have something you want to share, a picture, you just want to jump on there. The link to that is in the description below. It is free. And I will see you all in the next video. And until then, happy sewing!